Good evening and welcome to this round 4 of the HSO Can-Am 1971 Championship, coming to you tonight from the Glen at more as it's called, at Watkins Glen. And I completely lost out on where we are in the world, so in terms of the United States, so I hope you all know where that is. And yeah, this is round 4 of the championship. We have been going for about 2 months at HSO, and the championship here is mighty close. If I can actually find... There they are. Where we have David Saber still leading the championship on 35 points. He took the lead after round 1 and he's held on to it, although he's challenged very closely by David Yates and Yves Placé, both in second positions on 32 points, only 3 points behind. And Austin Ogonowski, who had a unfortunate trouble at Road Atlanta last time out, sits in 4th on 30 points. And Jason Whited sits in 5th with 22 points, a little bit behind, but definitely in contention still with how the points works. If he were to win one race, he'd shoot up right into the top of the leaderboard. Well, more or less. Well, if the others doesn't score, he would actually lead by 7 points, since the leader scores 25 points if they manage to win the race. And of course, tonight we are coming from Watkins Glen, a 3.9k circuit, or 2.43 miles, and we'll be going for 82 laps, which will equal just slightly over 199 miles, which clearly won't be a walk in the park. And I have with me in the booth Alberto Ibañez. Good evening, Alberto.
Good evening, everybody. I'm just briefing the drivers. Pleased to be here with you all again.
Yeah, that's nice to hear. Let's see, out on track the moment, I believe that is Jason White in number 11 machine, so let's bring that up on your screens as well, as we can take a moment to ride on board with him on this beautiful circuit. And find a good camera angle. Let's go with that. As he goes into the loop, what I would like to call turn 5 on this circuit, although as with many of the American circuits, the Americans would probably disagree with me. Of course, he has a bit of a moment by going down to the second to last turn. By the looks of things, during practice, the most difficult corner on the circuit now. And into the last turn, this 90-degree right-hander onto the start-finish straight. Very nice camber on the corners, but they are deceiving with there are concrete, but the grip on the concrete is very, very low. Here we have the S's after turn 1, very quick right, left, right, where, as you can see, the car gets very sideways and onto the back straight and heading towards the loop once again.
This is certainly a beautiful track, very fast with many elevation changes, and it will heavily favor the cars like the factory McLarens that have lots of grip and lots of power.
And also, I believe, the Brave. The drivers with as some would say, the biggest cojones will probably do well too around here.
It will certainly be a risky effort to be pushing there for the 10th that you can gain through the S's when being quick enough in changes of direction. We should also warn beforehand, Jonatan, that this is going to be a bit of a peculiar broadcast, because you have some personal obligations that will make you come and go. So the image, the picture that you all will be seeing might likely be focused on some of the cars, and I will be commenting a bit in a, so to speak, radio broadcast style that is not always following the car that you're seeing in the pictures, but trying to keep people updated on what's going on in the whole field, because I'm not sure if it will cover the best action if we are stuck with the leader, for example.
And of course, if we do miss any of the biggest action, I do apologize, but surprise visitors is surprise visitors, unfortunately, in terms of doing this this hobby on the side. But hopefully we will catch most, if not all, the action, and the racing will surely be very good indeed. As I just ran into a bit of internet trouble by the looks of things.
This is actually not a very big track, so I hope that most cars will be bunched up and we will be catching up lots of action, even if we are following just one car.
Well, at least when the traffic has thinned out a little bit and everyone is everywhere on the track, we will certainly find action no matter what car we're following, I think. And of course, one of the biggest dangers, or one of the biggest issues with the track for the drivers, is that it's very similar to a street circuit in terms of where the armco barriers are, because you have, as we could see with Jason there, he went just car widths wide and he just about avoided the armco on the outside, which will of course be very dangerous for the drivers as well if they do make a mistake. And if they do, they will most likely be in the barriers and picking up damage. And especially...
yeah, that's sadly the main reason why Watkins Glen was dropped from the Formula 1 calendar, because of safety issues, but because otherwise it's a great track.
Indeed it is, and I believe the initial demise for Watkins Glen as an F1 venue was François Sever's accident in 73. And of course other accident happened.
That was after Sever's death, with a big accident, yeah. Yeah, the safety issue we were talking about. It's actually something that happened to several very nice American tracks. They were deemed unsafe and lost any opportunity of getting Formula 1 races or things like that. Watkins Glen had been traditional, but it also happened to Mosport in Canada, and any attempt by Mid-Ohio to capture a Formula 1 Grand Prix was also ditched for the very same reasons, even if they run IndyCars there, and they still do.
Indeed, and I suppose technically another one is Long Beach and the Houston circuit as well. All those street circuits, the safety on those circuits is difficult to maintain as well.
Yeah, on the street circuits, normally the saving grace is that the speeds are normally not as high. You don't see many deadly accidents there. But they are, of course, very tolling on the equipment, and the Formula 1 teams with all that technology that requires very smooth surfaces for the aerodynamics to work well, they are not keen of driving in such places. Monaco is a tradition, but other than that, I think you ask any principal of a Formula 1 team and they will say, no thanks, no street races for anybody.
Which is very unfortunate for us wanting to have very action-packed races, because the street circuits, at least back in the day, and also at Monaco, usually provide some pretty good action to watch. And of course you can't get away from accidents happening to some drivers can be somewhat fun to watch as well. Sad truth about racing too. For many fans who want to see the accidents and nothing else.
Yeah.
I'll quickly try and stop the broadcast and restart it and see if that helps with the connection issues. So hang tight and we'll be right back.
Attention grid, will all non-essential personnel leave the grid now?
Let's see, I believe we should be back right now. Apologies for that issue. But it should be fine now. As we can see all the drivers starting to join the grid.
Where is Poleman? David Saber? Ah, there he is.
Yep. He took the pole by, I believe, 0.6 of a second in his number 5 McLaren. Second on the grid is Yves Placé in his number 50 Ferrari 712. Raoul Jereb, surprising third on the grid. He had a stunning qualifying here. Fourth would be Scott Jurek, who has had some troubling races recently, but hopefully he'll be able to finish here tonight. Jason White lines up fifth in his number 11 machine, and David Yates in a one-off drive in David Junt's number 54 McLaren lines up sixth. Seventh will be Ray Riddell with Hackman 8th. Austin Ogonowski slightly further down the grid than usual in 9th. And rounding out the top 10 will be Gerard Rion in the number 1 L&M car. 11th will be Steve Parker, and 12th for Grant Riddell in the slightly lower powered Porsche. Whereas Michael Drexler behind has a moment in the S's on the formation lap. Hopefully he hasn't picked up any major damages. But 12th, I believe, should be Michael Drexler, is Jakob Fröksen at the moment. Let's see where we are. 14th for Juha Boos, 15th for Gabriel Sturr, 16th for Martin Lassina, 17th for Michael Drexler, 18th for Jukka Martonen, 19th for Jason White, and 20th for Brian Yannick. 21st for Jan Titz, 22nd for Mick Chapman, 23rd for Matthias Weber, 24th for Philippe Enrique, 25th for Honza Mild in a one-off drive, and 26th for Karel Marcinishin also in a one-off drive. 26th for Jason Fitch, 27th for Bruno Chacon, 28th for 29th for Timo Vermeersch, and rounding out the grid in 30th is Jan Kowalski. And the start of this race will be called just before the S's here, so we are waiting patiently for the grid to be called, and the green flag is out, and away we go as they thunder into the S's. Looks like everyone has more or less survived. The car is starting in the turn 1 is slightly farther behind. It looks like everyone will have been able to get through the S's, okay?
David Saber already.
Oh,
they
yes,
went side
indeed.
by side into the S's. There was some very nice piece of driving there.
But
Austin Ogonowski has already climbed many positions, I think. He's side by side with David Jackson 6th at the moment.
see if we can catch that. Here they come, and he's trying to go around outside. Oh, Scott Jurek has a moment. But Ogonowski gets the position. And here comes the rest. Oh, there's a hit back here. That's between Jason White and I believe that's Jan Titz' light blue car. Another one with problem is Enrique.
Oh no! Look what happened. Scott Jurek lost control.
Oh no! There's a big pile up. Oh!
Oh, so many great races taken out. David Jacks, Austin Ogonowski. Yeah.
Jukka Martonen as well has lost the wheel.
Scott Jurek. Someone touched Scott Jurek and sent him waving, and he lost then control.
Åcerclinth as well. Jakob Fredriksson was involved. Oh dearie me. Let's see if we can find out what happened back here.
I can't believe it. Poor Scott.
See, we should be about here-ish. Let's see if we can find anyone who would have been at the start of all this. Here's Jakob Fredriksson at least. Let's see what he could see of all of this. Looks like David Yates is off wide. I don't know if that would have been him trying to avoid stuff.
Ogonowski has quit, Jurek has quit, Michael Drexler has quit. So, meanwhile David Sauber continues in the lead, followed closely by Yves Placé. It seems like these two are going to have a race-long battle for the lead, as Yves seems to be really comfortable here with his Ferrari.
Definitely seems like it.
There is a power disadvantage to that car, but Yves' driving and also the qualities of the Ferrari in the turns seem to be able to make up for it. So Jason White with his McLaren is now recovering some positions also.
Yeah, but that's David Saber just ran a little bit wide. Sorry to cut you off.
And it seems that David Yates was finally able to continue. I'm looking at his car. There's some side of it, the right side of it is bent, but other than that it seems to be driving more or less okay. I hope it gives him a chance to be competitive. I'm looking, definitely that car is not in good shape, because I'm looking at his steering wheel now and it's bent to the left when he's traveling in a straight line, so it seems as if he's going to be fighting a handling car for the whole race.
And that's unfortunate, but up ahead of him, Timo Vermeersch is getting passed by Jakob Fredriksson in the BRM.
Yes, Timo was very skillful there, avoiding the cars that were involved in a melee and in some track outings, and had been able to gain some positions, but obviously his car is one of the slowest ones, and he's now having to give up on those positions back to the people that have quicker rides.
It's nice to see that he's...
Marcelisi has won and is now going back into track. Jan Kowalski also, apparently they maybe had an incident between those two in the back of the grid.
Oh, it looks
so
like...
Jonatan is also in the pits.
Oh, actually, Mazanician span getting on the power out of turn 1, and it looks like Jan Kowalski lost it trying to get through turn 1 as well, so they weren't really involved with one another, but maybe Kowalski noticed the yellow flags being out and got distracted for a moment. Oh no, and we have a moment for Jason Fitch on the start-finish straight.
Man, we're having more incidents here than in all the previous races together.
Well, there were a late change to the circuit that created a little bit less grip on the concrete, so that could be part of the issue. But still, everyone should be able to do reasonably well in keeping on the circuit, I feel. Well, let's see, slightly further up the grid, you can see that David Saber is already into traffic, and that's Jan Kowalski up ahead of him.
Yeah, with all those incidents, there were many cars that lost a lot of time. So David seems to be today very well centered and very comfortable with the track. So let's see if this allows him to make up for the unfortunate races that he had before, and continue with the good line and recover the ability to be there at the top fighting for the championship.
Hopefully that'll be the case, and in the meantime Ray Riddell and Steve Parker is in a nice little battle here. I think there was just a try for a pass from Steve, who got a run on the back straight going into the loop, and he was looking up the inside. Ooh, bit of a chop off from Ray there, but all is fair in love and war, they say, and battling on the circuit can sometimes be centered around war, I suppose. Then we have Juha Bors, Gabriel Sturr, Adam Hackman. Ooh, braking very... Ooh, just about managed to get through turn 1 okay. That looked very hairy for him.
And then comes Gerard Rion, whose car has also had damage. Yeah, I'm looking, but not as bad as in the case of David Jacks, because he keeps the steering wheel nice and straight. So it seems to be only some damage to the body.
And another one involved in the lap 1 melee was Jason Whited, who started 4th on the grid and is currently sitting in 13th. So that sort of shows how much time you lose if you have a problem in this series.
Grant Friedel is also in the pits with the parked car. He's also out of the race. It's unfortunate that didn't catch it when it happened to him.
It's one of those things, you can't catch everything, but we do our best. It looks like Jakob Ferguson, despite having some damage himself, I believe, has the car well under control here, going very well indeed. Catching up to Mikael Drexler, who's a few laps down after his formation lap troubles. I believe he went into the pits immediately. And I have more internet troubles right here. My apologies. Looks like it's back.
So it's David Saber still as leader, keeping Yves Placé in striking distance. David was just able to put on Thamil between him and his follower, and his pursuer, sorry. Onza, who is now struggling sideways with that car that has so little grip.
They did a good job keeping out of the way.
Able to overtake it, but yeah. And good job from David Saber also putting that lap car there, because it has allowed him to open a smaller gap.
Oh team! Oh no! No! Oh, nice save. That was unfortunate.
Nice save, yeah. He almost could have. He almost could have tried to enter the pits, but there was no need for that. That will hurt, because I don't think that David Saber is being irregular or committing many errors. So it will take some time for Yves to catch up again.
Well, that all started with Timo trying to get out of the way of David Saber and slightly nudged the white line of grass, braking for the last turn, and that's why he was unsettled on Yves going for the inside with this car that's so quick in the corners. Whereas Timo gets well out of the way this time around. Maybe feeling a little bit embarrassed having held Yves up a little bit, but make sure to get out of the way as has a car that's very quick in the corners, so I believe he was attacking as hard as he could to try and take advantage of that. Oh, come on!
David Jacks is catching up with Jakob Fredriksson right now. I suspect that Jakob's car is also a bit damaged. It's obviously damaged visually, but we can't be sure about the behavior of the car. But I think he's going too slow for what is his pace and the potential of the car, so it's likely that he has also had damage there. He's also being held up by traffic right now.
Well, that's actually not traffic, that's for position.
Yeah, I was about to say that in the case of Jantitz it's for position. But the other car in front, that's Michael Dressler, that's actually a lap car, so it might have been hindering a bit both Titz and Fredriksson.
Well, it looks like I noticed Drexler earlier is very quick as... Oh, Fredriksson goes down the inside into turn 1. Nice and late on the brakes. There's a bit of a block pass and a very nicely maneuvered thing, and gets the position. Here comes David Yates as well, has a bit of a run. Slightly loose though by the looks of things in the S's. And so is Titz, to be honest, so this should open up for us maybe for an opportunity for Yates down forward gear change, causing more unsettlement for Titz as Yates goes by well ahead of the braking zone and gets the position as well. So 2 positions lost in the space of a few corners for Jan here.
These cars are hard enough to move, to horse around, and they move enough. If you have them crippled, as in the case of David and Jakob, it must be a real nightmare trying to be competitive with that.
That's very true indeed.
So that will probably even things more in the field.
Fredriksson had a bit of a moment. Looks like Jakes wants to... Oh, he's just not quite close enough to go for the move. Fredriksson again a little bit wide. This will be interesting down the straight to see where the BRM stands. I've heard it be a bit of a peculiar car to drive, but very nice to drive, but still a bit peculiar in how it handles. Oh, and here comes the McLaren, the Chevrolet Power, absolutely mullering the BRM. And Fredriksson decides not to fight it too hard and brakes early. And that's another position for Yates.
Still, he's in 13th position, which is quite far from when he started and probably from the hopes that he had. Because with such a decent car, he is a very competitive guy. We've seen that in past races.
Indeed, but...
so that's something that will likely hurt in the championship.
Yep, but Jason White does climb a few positions. Sitting behind... Ryan Yannick at the moment, so Yannick is in 10th, but not for long by the looks of things, but here comes White round outside. He's trying, but he's not actually quicker down the straight, but under brakes, looks like he may be able to make the move stick. Oh, running around outside in the loop, what a pass. Using the superior downforce of his McLaren.
We've got some reactions in the forum to things that have happened so far. It seems that Jonatan had a bit of bad luck because he tried to crawl through the pile-up and he hit another car slightly. He thought he had only punctured the right tire, but the right front tire, but when he came to the pits he found out that it's actually a full wheel that had been lost. And a bit of a problem with the pit stop and the pit crew. Meant that he wasn't able to make the repairs and come out of the pits. In the case of Grant Riddle, it seems that he made some mistakes on his own, and he said he flipped his car in turn 4.
That's unfortunate. Saber is actually...
So, David Saber's lead has increased to 6.6 seconds. And I believe it has to do with the fact that Yves Placet has lost contact with him. Yves was able to remain in striking distance and follow David, probably benefiting from the tow in the slipstream. But as soon as he made that error and David Saber was able to pull away, the difference has started increasing.
Indeed, but Saber is now in heavy traffic. He's coming up to the battle between Yates and Fredriksson, and Yates goes up the inside into turn 1. So Fredriksson retook the position somewhere around the track because he was ahead of him right just now, but now the positions are reversed, and here comes David Saber as well up behind them. And of course they aren't obligated to move out of the way, so they'll fight on as they've been doing the whole
fourth position.
Indeed, I too hope that Steve is able to hold on to that, because, as you say, he's definitely deserving of a good finish after being, I believe, taken out for no fault of his own at all in 2 of the previous races at least.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like the field is pretty much spread out now. Oh no! You gotta be kidding me, Steve Parker just blew his engine.
Oh.
Oh dearie me. Sorry Steve, that's the commentator's curse.
I was looking at it on board and I saw it suddenly over revving. So it could have been a misshift. Because I know he's driving with the H pattern shifter as in the real car, and it might have been that the gear slipped out of the position or that he missed the shifter. Well, again the commentator, the broadcaster curse, it seems. I'm going to stay silent about people because each time we mention someone it seems to be bad luck hitting him.
Indeed, I believe we will have to stop. Oh no! Oh dearie me! What a crash! What a huge crash in the loop! Good God! That was Hansa Mild going straight on in the loop. Looks like he had some damage already from the S's. Maybe even a puncture on the front.
Just as you mentioned that Steve had blown the engine, I was about to say that Jason White also seems to have gone out of the race with some suspension damage, probably the result of hitting something.
Well, he was hit very early on in the race, so that could also be one of the bits, but Hansa Mild had a huge accident in the loop. Actually flipped the car a full barrel roll before landing again, but luckily didn't end up back on the racetrack, and Jason Fitch followed him in sympathy. On another moment.
Meanwhile, at the top of the race, Yves Placé is gaining ground on David Saber again. He has been putting some very steady 1.05 laps, and it seems that David has been a bit more irregular. So the distance has reduced to 5.7 seconds. That's almost a full second less than it was before.
That could be down to the traffic he was.
Gerard Rion is also out with suspension damage.
Oh dear. That must be very recent as well. Yeah, it was.
It is. It's dropping now in the order. It's quite interesting that without being engaged in fights, people are starting to have accidents on their own now.
Well, the car was smoking, so that may be an engine failure actually, despite it saying suspension damage. But the car was smoking as he was coming to a standstill.
I also think that this is another of the cars that had been damaged in the early stages, and probably it arrives to a point where the driver is no longer able to keep it on track. When the fuel load starts changing and the tires are degrading, there's a point where the issues in the car become too heavy, too evident.
Well, that could very well be the case.
And Yves Placé might be 5 seconds from David Saber, but all the rest are almost in another galaxy, because the third classified is 23 seconds behind the leader, And from then on is 38, 41, 43, 54 seconds behind the leader until the 8th position, where Jason Whitehead sits, who is, well, about to be lapped by the leader, because it's 1.03 behind him, with 1.05 being the normal lap they're doing here, and 9th onwards is already 1 lap down.
And that being David Yates, but we can rest assured that Jason Whitehead will hustle to try and stay ahead, I think. Or if he gets lapped, I'm pretty sure he will do his best to try and hook onto the rear end of Saber's car, as Saber now has to run on him down the start-finish straight and puts a lap on Whitehead. So that's now only 7 cars on the lead lap. After only 20, well, actually a whole 22 laps. I thought would have been a little bit less, so about a quarter way through the race already. The race really has really flown by here. Looks like there's a bit of a lull in the action, so let's bring up the trivia question for this event. Which is, which American rock band headlined the Watkins Glen Summer Jam on July 28th, 1973? Was it A, the Electric Light Orchestra, B, the Allman Brothers Band, or C, the Doobie Brothers? Oh, and actually in the background, sorry to cut that short, but we'll come back to that. I noticed that there's a change for the lead in the race. David Saber is now in second because he had a moment on this in the first corner, and Yves Passet now leads.
Yeah, he was there waiting. The difference had just increased to 6 seconds some laps before, but it's not a lot when you spin here. 5 seconds is well, the speeds that these cars are traveling, you're quickly there. And whoa, John Kowalski there.
Indeed, but one of the things that
out of the corner and he almost lost it.
Yeah. Well, one of the good things David Saber did was that he was able to keep the car on the tarmac. He didn't end up on the grass and in the barriers. He managed to make the spin down the road and not down onto the grass and the barriers, which has clearly saved his race, and he's good to fight on.
And I would expect him to be able to catch Yves in not a lot of time, because he seemed to have a very good rhythm, not as regular as Yves, but having the same average. That's where the differences were kept, with David occasionally venturing into the 1.04 and other laps doing just 1.06, whereas Yves was driving like a clock always in the 1.05. But that means that David Saber has a full second up his sleeve that he can likely take out when he needs it, as seems to be right now the case.
Indeed, he closed in a lot in that in the braking zones of this lap. Ooh, but he has a big slide in the last turn.
He seems to be really angry at himself for having made that error that allowed Yves to slip into the first position, and he wants that first position back.
Indeed.
And now they're coming to traffic in the SS. Look at that. Yves very wisely put their lapped car, but Mick Chapman also did it very, very nice. He didn't interfere in the fight and was able to let David before the SS. Oh, this is now a dangerous situation for Yves. And now look at that. David Saber. The difference, the reason why David Saber caught up immediately is because Yves, out of prevention, lifted the throttle until having a clear picture of what was going to happen in front of him. And that powerful McLaren was immediately on his tail.
Indeed, but David didn't want to go for it in the loop, which is a good side to David. He's very patient and looks for the correct opportunity to go for the move, and of course he also knows he should have the quickest car in a straight line, so that of course also helps a little bit.
Yes, but Yves is doing it very well in the S's. He's going very quick through that. And even with all the power in the world, if the McLaren isn't able to be really close behind the Ferrari in the S's, it won't have a chance to overtake. David knows it, and that's why he's trying to be there.
Looks like he is now. That was a very quick assist from David.
Because this run there to the next corner isn't as far as you would think. Look at that, there wasn't enough time. A car is sliding there in front.
Oh,
Jason Fitz. Well, in the end he made room, so not a big deal. But we'll see now how these two guys are able to fight it out, especially how Yves is going to take the pressure that David is putting on him. These two guys, who are, by the way, teammates in the Matra team in the Formula 171 season that we are running. Oh, look at that. David Saber power sliding the car there. Becoming completely sideways.
Doing it the rally way.
This is a dangerous proposition what he's doing there, because being so close to Yves could easily cause his car to understeer out of those fast corners.
Here he comes though.
But like I said, he needs to do that, or otherwise he won't be able to overtake in this short straight.
But it looks like he may have been able to do so unless he can use the draft down this straight. Oh, he gets sideways though. That's probably the position lost for Yves for the time being.
Yeah, for Yves it's going to be much harder to recover it, because you need that straight line speed to be able to overtake. Because in the S's they are more or less quite well matched.
Alright, so say the one place Yves could possibly try and move is into the very last turn if he has a very good run.
Yeah, Yves' best bet is to wait until David either makes a slight error or the traffic helps him.
Indeed. And he will have to hope that it happens in the correct spot for him to actually take advantage as well.
Yes, exactly. Now look at this. Hackman is likely going to be exactly a bit more of a problem for Yves than it had been for David, and that's just because Yves found him some yards down the road in the braking zone. Even if Adam moved excellently to the side to allow Yves to get by, that wasn't the ideal position to be for the braking zone.
Indeed. But he has recovered quite well.
Pushing a lot to try to open a gap between him and Yves. He knows that the slightest error means that Yves will be on front again. Yeah, like this one. Look at that.
That was a good save though.
Yeah. But got him the pressure again.
Yep. Or as Nicky Grist would have said to Colin McRae, well done. Because that's the way he would.
Gabriel Star. And I believe in some laps he will be able to catch up, because he seems to become more rhythm. Slightly quicker there.
And I'm working on getting back in.
Non-essential personnel leave the grid now.
Yes. I saw that the broadcast was stopped, at least the image.
It should be hopefully back up now. At least it says it should be okay. I'm also back in, so let's back up on your screen. I do really highly apologize for the issues. I don't know why my internet is so bad today.
I don't see broadcast right now. Waiting for any possible error. In the case of Juha Boss, he is now much closer, I think, to Gabriel Ster. Still some distance to go, but closer. They're both going through traffic. And they are lapping, in the case of Gabriel Ster, 1.07 in the last 2 laps. And in the case of Juha Boss, it's 1.06. So that's definitely quicker.
But he really got held up
around half a second. Sorry?
But he really got held up then, behind Matthias Weber and...
Yeah, that's going to hurt him now. Because he got stuck in the S's behind Matthias Weber. We already warned in the briefing that this is not a place where the lapped cars are obliged to give way. Matthias is now doing it very nicely there, moving immediately out of the way as soon as he exited the S's. But those are very dangerous turns, so trying to do risky maneuvers there, even with the best intention, is a sure recipe for a disaster sooner or later. Anyways, I think that Gabriel Ster suffered more or less the same thing with the car in front in that section, so the difference hasn't grown up that much. It's right now, it's 3 seconds. Yeah, it was 2 seconds, it has gone up to 3. But if Juha is able to continue at that rhythm, 1.06, then it won't be long until he is right behind Gabriel.
Indeed.
The gap between David Saber and Yves Placet has opened a bit more. It's now 3 seconds.
And we have another battle brewing as well. By the looks of things, between Jason Whited and Adam Hackman. Although calling it a battle might be a bit much, because it looks like Whited should have oh, it's not actually an easy pass. So this is a battle. Hackman held on down the straight. Now let's see what Whited decides to do now.
Driving very similar cars. Both McLarens, but in the case of Whited, I think it's a later version.
I believe so. It looks a little bit wider and have a bit more scoops and things on the car.
In any case, Whited was able to make it. Whited was able to make it past Hackman with no excessive problems, it seems. And he's now opening a gap. There was certainly a speed difference that made things easier for him, and Adam Hackman was well aware of that and didn't put much of a fight against it. It's in the case of Juha Boss and Gabriel Ster, it's interesting that they are both in their battle, but also at the same time, thanks to them speeding up as much, they are catching up with Ray Riddle, who is now only 3 seconds in front of Gabriel Ster. The rhythm and isn't exactly behind David Saber. He starts dropping unless David Saber commits any error.
Indeed, and I'm again struggling, so I'm trying to alter my network connection. But please keep commentating and I'll try to rectify it.
So now the difference has increased 4.6 seconds between David Saber
essential personnel leave
probably
the
the
grid
result
now.
of Yves having found more traffic. Raúl Jereb is in a very solid third position and driving impeccably. Is really doing very well. 39 seconds behind the leader. And long distance behind is Ray Riddle, who has, as we have mentioned before, Gabriel Ster 3 seconds behind him, and Juha Boss another 2 or 3 seconds behind him. The field is then quite spread up from then on.
Well, the battle is still on though between Jason Whited and Adam Hackman, so at least that's something to watch for the time being.
Yeah, Whited must have made some kind of error because he had been able to go past Hackman easily before, and finding him behind Hackman is probably the result of some incident, spin or whatever. Looking at the car, there is some small damage at the front in Jason Whitehead's car. I'm not sure if it was there before or if he has had contact with another car lately.
That's
He's now
possible,
catching out of Hackman.
maybe a troublesome lapping.
He is looking for the slipstream at the exit of the SS, but there is now too much difference there. The distance is too big.
Yep, he'll have to wait another lap, unless Hackman makes a mistake. He locked up going into the loop, but was able to keep it on the road.
He was too much to the right, probably protecting the inside in the case that Jason Whitehead intended tried any move. But in the end, this has hurt him because he entered the turn in a very weird way, and had to go through it much slower.
Nicely done by Timo right there, staying well out of the way and reading the traffic very well and who was behind and what they wanted to do.
Look at that, Hackman does it again. He takes a defensive line there, but that only makes things complicated for him in the turn later.
Indeed, it's one of the things that is difficult difficult habit to get out of if you have that habit in terms of defending empty space, as it were.
Yeah, look at that. There, through the middle of the turn, locking the wheel. He's trying to protect, probably he's trying to stay focused and concentrated on his braking point, and does that in an attempt to not take care of the mirrors, just position himself while he knows that he can cover the spot. But if he would look more into the mirror, he would see that Jason Whitehead is not in striking distance, and driving like this for Hackman defensively isn't going to buy him a gap to Jason Whitehead.
Indeed. That's very true.
There it is. There it is. It could also be that either because of the setup or because of damage, Adam Hackman's car is understeering much more. And because of that, he has to do much earlier turn-in, so that when the car slides the front out to the outside of the track at the exit, he doesn't find himself in the grass.
That's definitely a possibility, but seems a little bit strange still. I suppose any line that works for a driver works.
Yeah, but I suspect that the only reason why he's staying in front is because Whitehead is starting him and taking things calmly. Because even if Hackman would be closer to Whitehead lap times, he's ruining his laps probably with this strange lines that he's driving.
Well, the one thing I'll give Adam is that he's very quick in the S's, while Jason seems to be struggling quite a bit through there.
If you look at it close carefully, you will see now when they come to the point where they switch directions, Jason Whitehead cars, if he's close to Hackman, has a lot of aero understeer. In this case, because he was a bit further behind, he was able to stay at the same distance, but in the previous laps he went very close, and as a result, partly because he had to brake so as not to hit Hackman, and partly because he had aero understeer, he wasn't able to be close enough at the exit of the SS to make the move.
Indeed. Well, he's still trying, it's closing in, and there's traffic in the way as well, so this could be the opportunity Jason has been waiting for. Make his way by. Oh, he has a good run through the last turn. It looked like, but Adam takes the defensive line once again. And holds on to the position.
Now look at this, White it gets very close here, but at the apex of the change of direction, look at the waving in his car. I mean, this time he was able to control it. Oh, look at that. That's a very nice move from Hackman. He used Matthias Weber to absolutely block the track for Whitehead.
Very much so, very nicely done.
Yeah, very much oval racing style. But Whitehead is getting impatient. Like I said, his car is obviously quicker. Look at that Hackman. He's in the middle of the completely defensive line.
If he if he had gotten any closer, I would have gone up the OSC. Had Hackman makes a mistake.
Will he see him? Yes. Fortunately, because if he had closed the door there, accident would have ensued.
Indeed. Finally, Jason scares Hackman into mistake, and that's the position gained. US Weber has a big lock up into turn 1 and goes off the road.
Hackman was very lucky not to be hit from behind.
Indeed.
And I think this is it for Hackman, unless Whitehead makes another error.
Definitely looks like it.
So in the front, things are as they were more or less. Yves Placet 3 seconds behind David Saber. And Hugh Boss hasn't been able to make a dent in the difference between Gabriel Ster and him. So things are pretty much the same. Whereas Gabriel Ster has been able to catch up with Ray Riddle, whom he is now pressing for that 4th position.
Indeed, but as we saw previously, Ray ain't easy to pass. So we'll see what happens here, but hopefully it'll be another good battle to watch. As there's a bit of a lock-up.
With all this action going on between Whitehead and Hackman, it seems that David Jacks has been able to catch up, and he's now also starting to move on Adam Hackman, because he has him already on his side, and probably in some laps, unless Hackman speeds up, he will have him in striking distance.
That'll also be interesting to keep an eye on, but now let's follow this battle for 4th and 5th. As he gets really close to race bumper and gearbox. US Ray has a big moment in turn 3. Held onto it though, nicely held. And still kept the power on. Very impressive driving right there.
Well, the car seems to be really quick in the straights. From Gabriel is using one of the older McLarens, whereas in the case of Brad Riddle, it's, I believe, a Lola. I have a look at the entry list.
I believe it's a Lola 707, but could be wrong. There's a bit of traffic up ahead. I believe that's Brian Yannick's dark blue machine.
It's a Lola T222 with an 8-liter Chevrolet V8. Yes, number 51, that's it. Whereas in the case of Gabriel Ster, It's a 7.6 Chevrolet V8. The difference is likely that Gabriel's car does not have a big rear wing, and while it might give some more grip to Riddle's car, it also might have some drag. That explains why he's not as quick in the straight line.
Certainly a possibility, and if they did it anyway like back in the day, they probably taped up any kind of gap in the old McLaren and making it go as quickly as possible down the straights and to hell with the corners. Like they did at Le Mans in the, I believe it was late 80s with one of those one-piece bodywork Peugeots. I believe it was Peugeot anyway, where they taped up everything.
And meanwhile, Jax has already got Hackman. He's pressing him. He made him commit an error in the turn going into the main straight. Into the straight start-finish line, and he's been able to pass him.
Yep, very nicely, very opportunistic from David there. When we have a bit of a moment for, as Felipe Enrique is sitting on the pit exit road. Hopefully he'll be able to get that car fired up again. Oh, same issue that others have had. Ooh, he hit that barrier quite hard.
So fortunately he is completely out of the racing line, so it poses no danger to the rest of drivers. Now he's moving the wheels, but... Oh, look at that. Gabriel Ster just passed by him trying to make a move into Grant Riddle at the entry of the SS.
That's very brave to go for a move right there.
It didn't work though.
No, he decided...
But it sure scared the hell out of Ryan.
Certainly.
Very nice line there through the corner for Gabriel Ster. Very much able to put the car very precisely. Riddle there going for a very early turn-in. Locking wheels a lot. Whereas Gabriel Ster has a much cleaner exit from the corners.
It's very interesting to see the difference in driving styles. And I believe that race car has a bit more downforce. Ooh, as Gabriel goes round outside here.
And Rai wisely lifted because he knew he had lost the position, and
oh, but he's trying.
Could have been a very big accident there. He has momentum, he would be able to stay, but no, it seems that Gabriel Ster car has a lot of straight line speed. Probably, as we mentioned, because of the smaller wing. But Rai Riddle is certainly not going to leave things as they are now, not without a fight.
Certainly not, and he almost tapped Gabriel going through the last bit of the S's, so I believe that's also why he was a bit further behind going down the back straight. Whereas Timo gets slapped right there, trying to stay out of the way as well as he can. And Ray gets held up just a tiny bit on the entry to the last turn. Let's see what happens after the first turn and in the S's this time around, when Gabriel has a bit of clear space and Ray has a bit of free space as well. Gabriel a bit late on the turn in. Gets a good run. So does Ray by the looks of things.
And David Jax has now started to move on the next position, the next qualifier, that is Jason Whited in 7th position. And David Jax is still some distance from him, but not a huge one. I would guesstimate some 4 or 5 seconds. And he's lapping in 1:06, very low 1:06. whereas Jason Whited is doing 1:07 less in the last lap. So it seems that Whited has been able to go into the 1.05 some laps earlier, and he better start doing it again, or he will soon find himself pressed by David Jacks.
Yes, and White does carry a bit of damage, I believe, so that's probably why he's struggling. And we do know that David Yates has damage as well, but maybe different kinds of damages, and that's why maybe David has a bit more knowledge in how to get the car to go.
Ray Riddle isn't really giving up without a fight.
I've been following that, and he's staying very close behind, so any mistake Gabriel does, he'll be right there to capitalize on it. And he's very quick in the loop, but loses out a little bit from turn 1 to the start of the S's. Probably
51 laps into the race.
So about 30.
There's still ways to go.
Yeah, about 31 laps to go, and still everything can happen. A lot of time, of course, for mistakes to occur as well. With much better line from Ray Riddle that time around. He gained a lot of time on Gabriel. He looks very quick through here as well. Understeers a little bit in the dirty air though, but stays closer this time. So maybe he'll have a go during this next lap. Whereas Gabriel has a moment coming off turn 1.
And there is also a lap car in the SS, which could benefit a lot Ray Riddle, because he needs to be really close when coming out, powering out properly. Yeah, there you go. This time he got the slipstream. So Gabriester will likely move to the right in the last moment to protect the... There he goes. That wasn't enough for Ray because of the straight. It's not long enough for that car, or for this combination of cars.
No, but it's very interesting to see the difference in driving styles. Uwe's Ray short lines the last turn as much as he can, while Gabriel takes a slightly wider line, trying to keep the momentum up.
Yeah, it's in the case of Gabrielster, his car has last downforce, and he's having a line that has a later apex, in benefit of a cleaner exit where he is able to put the power down without having to do it with the car still angled. Whereas in the case of Ray Riddle, his main concern is going through the turn as quickly as he can. That's why he takes an earlier apex.
Indeed. Going in the dirty air now, Ray loses out a little bit. See, David Yates is still quite a ways behind.
Oh, I see there a wheel jumping in the track.
Oh dear me, it looks like it's Jan Tits.
Yeah, it's Jantis. He lost it. Yes, I only got in the reply him coming already into the pits after the accident.
I believe he's trying to repair the damage, but it doesn't look like his pit crew wants to try and fix it within the time left in the race. which is unfortunate. He was having a pretty good race going for himself.
Yeah, and with early race carnage, points are cheap today, so I guess that if you are on track, you should try to be as careful as possible.
Indeed. And yet the battle rages on between Ster and Ray Riddle. I believe
it's not comfortable at all to race like that.
Ooh.
Someone on your toes. Whoopa!
I think had he gotten any close.
Different lines. Yeah.
Indeed, and I believe he missed his braking so many
lines they are taking. Also very different turn-in and apex speeds.
Indeed, but it looks like Ray has a bit of a run here. Of course, a bit of traffic.
He was coming out of the slipstream, so as not to have aero understeer.
This could work nicely for Ray. He looks for the good exit, and there's a bit of traffic as well, which could help him getting by Gabriel. So traffic goes to the inside of the track, tries to get out of the way. Does it very nicely indeed. Not sure who that was, but here comes the next one. That looks like it could be Matthias Weber. Oh, Mick Chapman. Okay.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, and yeah, he stays very nicely out of the way. Gabriel Ster's line is a bit compromised, but so is Ray Riddle's, so none of them really lose out, but into the S's they go again, and definitely looks, you can really see the difference in the lines through the S's. Looks like they're zigzagging between one another down there.
It seems to me that the difference between David Jacks and Jason Whited is not shrinking, but because Jason Whited is having to do, well, the best he can. He's really pushing the car, probably very well aware of David Jacks coming from behind.
Indeed.
I think it's slightly smaller than the previous time. We are not getting segment times here and not difference between lapped cars, but there seems to have been some slight error by Jason Whited, because now David Jacks is much closer, still not in striking distance, but very, very close.
Well, it looks like there's a bit of lap traffic, so it could be that he got held up a little bit.
Maybe, yes, by Brian Janik. And
oh no!
I was mistaking Bruno Chacon with Jason Whited, because from David Jack's car they look the same. Well, that was not... Oh! Big accident behind! When Bruno Chacon was trying to get back into the track. Is that Yves Placé?
No, it's Raul Yereb, I think.
Raul?
Yeah, I believe it is. Oh no. Well, it's a very difficult place to be sat anyway for Bruno. I mean, he's right on the racing line where he was.
Not his fault, really. Not his fault. It was a chain reaction after David Jacks hit him in the back.
And that's Yves Placé got involved as well, indeed.
Yeah, he was also involved.
Timo Vermeers as well got involved. Oh dear me, that's really unfortunate.
Well, thanks God, Raul Yereb has been able to continue. I hope that his car isn't too badly damaged.
Well, he hit in the front. Looks like he'll continue running. Yves Placé is of course continuing to run as well, but that's very unfortunate for both of them.
Well,
Hopefully,
Bruno has had to quit, which is a shame because this was not his fault at all. It was a chain reaction triggered when he was hit from behind by David Jacks and lost control, which probably was a case of a bit of a misunderstanding between David and him. But the S's were definitely a place where we already warned that lapping cars would be going at their own risk, and the safest thing would have been to wait until the S's were over to pass Bruno.
well, I believe it was a combination of Brian Yannick on the outside of Bruno Chacon, and Bruno Chacon trying to get out of the way of him, of course, and then David Yates was right behind him, so when Bruno on the tight line ended up slightly wide, David really didn't have anywhere to go, but one could argue that he should have given a bit more safety margin for that possibly happening.
So this makes David Saber's position in the lead easier than before, and the main fight on the track remains Brad Riddle versus Gabriel Stara.
Indeed it does, and it looks like the difference always, I was going to say the difference between them doesn't seem to have changed much, but then Ray makes a slight error in turn 1 and loses, looks like not more than 1.5 sails or something, but looked like he should have lost a lot more from the loose moment he had. But we are about 20 laps from the end of the race, so I think we should finish off the trivia question for our viewers. Which the question was, which American rock band headlined the Watkins Glen Summer Jam on July 28th, 1973? Was it A, the Electric Light Orchestra, B, the Allman Brothers Band, or C, the Doobie Brothers? And of course Jason Whited is prohibited from answering this question since he was the one who came up with it. But what do you think, Alberto? Do you have a guess?
I would say just Doobie Brothers.
The same
but
answer.
It's a wild guess.
It was the same answer I tried. And the answer is B, the Allman Brothers Band, which I must be honest, I had never heard of before it came up in the trivia.
Neither me.
I suppose they are.
And the Electric Light Orchestra really seemed too improbable.
Indeed. I'd assume the Allman Brothers are a bit of an American band only, and that may be why neither of us has heard about them before. But let's get back to the track and see if anything has changed. It looks like Ray is closing in on Gabriel again. It looks like looks like David Yates has made a mistake somewhere, because he's dropped back down behind Juha Boss right here. So that's a bit unfortunate for David, who of course will be wanting to get every point he can get, considering he's in the championship hunt for the moment. Oh, and here comes Ray, he's really close behind Gabriel Sturr. But I think that gear change in the middle, coming out of the SS is really hampering race progress of trying to get by Gabriel Stir. Whereas Gabriel goes wide, slightly sideways in the loop, has to stay wide.
The two different lines that they have, and it almost worked for right here. And Gabriel Star is not going to gain anything from that position he's holding now.
But Ray is very cautious, and
that makes him slow. Yeah, Rai was cautious because he knew Gabriel was going to lose a lot of momentum coming out of the corner. It's just a matter of Gabriel being able to block the position, which he was. These two will really be tired after this race. This is going to be a good workover for them.
Certainly, but I think they will have been enjoying every moment of it. Because in my view, there's few things as good as having to battle the same guy for the whole race, and for the guy coming out on top in that instance, it'll be pure joy and happiness. And at the moment, it looks like Gabriel has a slight over.
And with all these incidents, David Saber, who has had so far a very clean race in general, has already lapped the third classified and has only not lapped the second classified, that is his place. And there is Adam Hackman smoking. Adam Hackman's engine is smoking. I don't know if it's dying on him, because it's when he's on the gas. When he's on the gas, it's smoking. So
maybe a bit of overheating.
Yeah, very likely overheating. Maybe he closed the radiator too much for this race, and he's now starting to pay for it.
Possibly.
But that doesn't look very good.
Oh, I think he just blew it.
Doesn't look well at all.
I think he would have just blown the engine. There was a bigger puff of white smoke coming out, and yep, he's pulling to the side of the road. Looks like Adam Hackman's race is unfortunately over due to a blown engine.
And Yves Placé is right now being hunted by Raúl Jereb. I don't know if there is a lap between both. That should be, I think. Oh, another accident. Adam Hackman. Yeah, it says suspension, but it's certainly a broken engine. I don't know if he hit something on his way out.
I don't think he hit anything on the way out, but I think he was involved in the opening lap. Stuff like most of our drivers were.
Ooh, Red Riddle there. Almost lost it there, coming out of the SS.
And
trying to be too close to Gabriel Ster.
Yeah, and Raúl Jereb just passed Yves Placé. Yves Placé moved out of the way, so there will be a full lap between them now. But it looks like Raúl, for the time being at least, is quicker. Let's get to where you were talking about the battle between Ray and Gabriel. As Gabriel is very wide, I think that was a slight error from his part. I believe it was a bit wider than he would have wanted. It could also be, I think, that maybe his tires are starting to feel the strain as well, with him having less downforce.
Yeah, that could be the case. Though by his line, he is not degrading the fronts nearly as much as Ray Riddle is doing. But yeah, the lack of downforce could play a role. So I would expect Ray Riddle's car to be on the steering because of the degradation of the front tires. He's really pushing them in the turn entries. Look at that.
So it's a bit like the old front versus rear wheel drive thing going on right here with their different styles. Gabriel may be burning out the rear tires a bit more because he's driving it like a rear wheel drive car, while Ray, with the extra downforce on his car, drives it like a front wheel drive. And that's why his front tires are, as you say, probably feeling a bit of the strain.
The more I look at it, the more I think that the reason Rai is driving like that and using this line is because of turn entry understeer.
Oh, Gabriel made a mistake, ran very wide indeed, still got the power on though.
Yeah, but Rai was coming too hot and wasn't able to capitalize. There you go, this is the same thing that he tried before. And he either loses downforce when he's right behind Gabriel, or that line simply doesn't work for the very understeering Lola.
Well, it's very close either way.
Yeah, look at that. Look how the car slips out. I mean, yeah, he goes into the turn very hot. But I think that this car that Rai is driving is really an understeering pig.
Well, at least now it is. Not sure about how it would have been early on in the race. But right now I think you're right. He's definitely really trying to get the car to turn, but the car says no. Though we had a very good turn 1 right there. It's fairly close behind Gabriel once again. But of course Gabriel has a better car in a straight line, but maybe this time Ray will have a better loop turn. He does, he stays very neat and tight. He gets, by the looks of things, a pretty good run. He could have an opportunity down into the last 2 turns here. No, it's not quite close enough to force Gabriel into a defensive line. And this looks like the complete opposite to when we were watching Adam Hackman early in the race. Adam was taking very defensive lines every lap, while Gabriel knows where he's probably a bit weaker, and everywhere else takes his normal racing line.
Yeah, the thing is that Gabriel should actually be more inclined to doing the same defensive line as Adam Hackman.
Because Ray has run.
Yeah, he should be aware that in the case of Rai, he absolutely goes into the turn at huge speed.
Tries to cross under it.
Yeah, exactly. Blocking him there in the middle of the turn, denying him the ability to get away with that huge excess in speed, is probably what would kill more Rai chances.
Definitely looks like it.
But
maybe
the thing is, it's a bit diabolic for Gabriel Ster, because that would also likely kill the line that he needs to take through the corners. Look at this, and in this corner you'll see it clearly. Gabriel stays to the outside because of the line he's taking, and Rai throws himself there to the middle. If Gabriel would go into the turn a bit earlier, Rai would be denied to go at that speed into the turn. But then again, Gabriel wouldn't probably be able to come out as clean, and then be easier prey in the straight that goes after that. In any case, I mean, this is of course Monday morning quarterbacking, because for Gabriel whatever he's doing is working very well, so I guess that he just has to be praised for that. No critic there.
He's definitely making that car go very well. He proved it at Road Atlanta as well, where he was in the top 5 for the whole race, and here he's sitting inside the top 5 as well, and doing a very good job keeping Ray behind him, without really, by the looks of things, trying too hard to manage it.
So meanwhile it seems that David Jacks has been able to overtake Juha Boss, whose car is, well, quite damaged on the left side, and on the front it seems a bit like as if someone had chewed him and then spitted it.
Well, Juha was joking before the race that his mindset for every race was to, I'll just stay out of the way of the trouble and keep it on the road. Usually I don't manage that, and it looks like that's the case tonight as well.
Yeah, the problem is that when you are on a racetrack with 30 more cars, sometimes it's the problems that come to you. Indeed. Instead of you looking for them.
I know that feeling all too well, I'm afraid, so I know exactly what you mean. But he's still inside the top 10, so that's still very good going from you, as we are just now clocking over to 9 laps to go. We still have 13 cars running in this race, with Timo Vermeersch bringing up the last car running in that Porsche. 12th for Michael Drexler, 13th for Mick Chapman, 11th, and just ahead of Mick Chapman is Matthias Weber.
And let's see if this... No, this would give Rai the chance that he's looking for. Because Gabriel was being held up a bit during the turn by Matthias, but this hasn't been enough for Rai to find a gap.
Rounding out the top 10 in the meantime is Brian Yannick. 9th is... Sorry, that's my bad. Matthias Weber is 10th. 9th is Brian Yannick. 8th for Juha Boss. 7th for David Yates. 7th for Jason Whited. 5th for Ray Riddell. And he's actually pushing Gabriel Stern now in the last turn of the S's as he's trying to get a run. He brakes very early this time around, trying to find a bit of momentum. Oh, had he just taken his normal line, I think he could have had a go right there. Because Gabriel washed out a little bit. Gabriel now takes a defensive line. This could open up a small opportunity. But he is able to stay enough towards the inside that Ray is discouraged from looking up the inside. So Gabriel Stur is 4th, 3rd still for Raoul Jereb, 2nd for Yves Placé, and still in the lead is David Saber, who has driven almost a completely clean race. He had a bit of a moment about 15 laps in, but apart from that it looks like no trouble has befallen him whatsoever. Back to this battle. There's a bit of traffic in the loop. That's Ryan Yannick. Looks like both of them are being held up slightly by the dirty air. Them being Stur and Riddell. As Gabriel Stur goes up the inside of Yannick, Yannick takes the racing line towards the apex, so this is not good for Ray, who gets held up a little bit. Quite a bit actually. Now Brian gets out of the way, but that's 3 car lengths that Ray will have to try and regain. We are 6 laps from the end of the race. So this is do or die time for...
This will be too long for Gabriel and too soon for Rai.
Quite. And but also I noticed in the...
Look at that. After the gap that Gabriel had opened thanks to Brian, Rai was immediately again on Gabriel Stur's tail. So that seems to indicate that Rai is really quicker than Gabriel. He just isn't able to pass. Probably the line that Gabriel Stur is taking through the corners is simply hampering Rai, is making him unable to use whatever tricks he has found to make the car quicker.
Indeed, and David Sabre is coming up to these guys, so I wonder if he will want to put a lap on them, or if he'll be happy to stay behind and let them battle for the laps that are left in the race for them.
Well, my bet is that he will put a lap on them, just even if just because changing rhythm and being behind these cars that are much slower than him would probably disturb his concentration.
Well, we'll know in a moment's time, because he's coming up to Ray right here.
What he has to do is lap them, get away with that, and immediately start lapping it again in his own lap times. That has been working well for him for this many laps, and he shouldn't try something different now.
Indeed, but we'll see what happens. He's currently staying behind. So maybe he'll fly by on the next time on the straight, and he should be able to get both of them.
Yeah, that's a win at the stake here, so he likely want to be very, very careful not to get problems from a lap car. He'll do it in the straight. He has a big lead. There is no need for him to take risks here.
Indeed.
And he maybe is also aware that there is a battle going on between these both.
I wouldn't be surprised with him being aware of that. He's usually very well aware of what's going on the circuit, and plays with that. With Ray has a big run through the S's. He's really close behind him, and he's trying to use the draft. David very wisely stays behind right now, because if he were to be in the middle of this, he could get taken out. So I think by the looks of things, he has decided to stay behind, either until there's a clear opportunity to lap them, or until they decide their battle between them, which is very nice of him, but a little bit dangerous possibly for himself.
He helped him right if he overtook, because probably the slipstream of the overtaking car is what Ray would need to make it past Gabriel, and because Gabriel would be forced.
Ooh, Ray going up the inside in the first bit of the SS. He finally got a gap.
That was some piece of precision driving, because they were really close.
Wowee. That was close.
Gabriel trying to move him out of the slipstream. That high entry won't work for Ray, I guess. Gabriel forced him into that, and look at that. Now he has a small gap.
Unfortunately not, but that was a very nifty try for a move. He's tried that before. He was sizing him up several times during this race, and that's when he decided to go for it. I wonder if Gabriel leaves the inside open this time around in the SS. But then again, if he does take the tight line, that could compromise his way down to the loop. As you mentioned before about the line he's having to take to be really quick. We have 2 laps to go. This is the second to last lap. And Ray again is very quick in the SS. When he has a big run, he's trying for the inside. Gabriel takes the inside line though, just about in time to keep Ray behind him, and David has backed off, decided that he wants a big gap and stays side by side through the loop. Gabriel stays ahead for now, but Ray has to run.
It was really, really very nice driving. I mean, Gabriel blocked the turn masterfully, because Ray had done it very well also, but Gabriel was really, really spot on with his movements there. First he forced Ray into the outside of the corner, which is exactly the part where he doesn't want to enter it. He wants, as we have mentioned, a very early turn entry, which he can do when Gabriel is there on the inside. And then he quickly moved to the outside, but keeping the racing line, so that he completely blocked Ray Rida's acceleration out of the corner.
And here they go again through the S's. Ray again very quick. David in the meantime behind them is on his final lap. But for these guys, it'll be 2 laps to go.
Now let's see how long it takes for Gabriel to move to the inside. There he goes. And now let's see if Ray can find a cure against that maneuver.
Oh, he's definitely trying.
Now Gabriel will slide to the outside. And there you go, completely blocked for Ray. Now again to the inside to deny him the quick entry into this left turn.
Oh, he had a thought,
late, but yeah, but you see that's the movement that Ray was going to do.
Oh, he's really trying. He may have a bit of a... No, he's been held up enough. In the meantime, going towards the finish line is David Saber to take the win of this race, but we'll follow this battle until the end and then go through the finishes, because anything can happen on the final lap here. Ray had a bit of a slow first corner, but that could all be down to him wanting to be able to get a run through the S's. And he is getting it, slightly sideways there, but keeps the speed up. And he's really trying here. I think he's too far behind though.
He's a little more behind, but this could actually work in his favor, unless Gabriel nails the turn. Let's see what happens now. Yeah, there you go. Gabriel is sliding a bit to the outside. No, he managed to hold it to the apex. Well, Gabriel is very much in control of the situation.
Yeah, Gabriel really proving why he's worthy of this car. And Ray, of course, proving that he's a very good driver, especially in these cars. He has a bit of a run, but Gabriel holds the inside line and he finishes 4th in this race. Beautiful battle between the two. Fantastic job by both of them.
It was indeed.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Great fight. They should be proud of themselves because they did it very well without being dirty and always keeping the distance and leaving room for the other.
Certainly. So, to go through the finishes very quickly, David Saber takes the win here in his McLaren. Second will be Yves Placé with Raoul Yereb third. 4th for Gabriel Sturr and 5th for Ray Riddle after their fantastic battle. 6th will be Jason White with a good recovery drive after the opening lap antics. 7th for David Yates, same for him in terms of the recovery. 8th for Juha Boss, 9th for Brian Yannick, a very nice finish for him in the old McLaren. 10th for Matthias Weber, another good finish for him. 11th would be Michael Drexler, good recovery drive after his early problems. 12th will be Mick Chapman, and last of our finishers in this race will be Timo Vermeersch in 13th. But again, what a fantastic battle that was. That was really exciting to watch. Well, to answer one of the comments in the broadcast chat is if the Allman brothers are super famous, then maybe I'm too young and from the wrong part of the world. I'm only 25 myself, so I suppose that's the case for me. I'm not sure about you, Alberto, if you, maybe both of us are from the wrong part of the world.
I'm 45, but I have no clue either.
It's the wrong part of the world for us then to know about the Allman brothers.
Yeah, very likely.
I had a comment from Steve as well in the broadcast chat, and apparently he took the wrong gear. So that's why his engine blew.
That's what we suspected. Yeah.
That's very unfortunate, and sadly a very sad end for a very good race going, but
I promise I won't mention him again in the broadcast so that he doesn't have any more bad luck, because I'm really starting to feel guilty about this all.
Maybe we should just call him the McLaren driver or something to give him a bit of help with the commentator's curse. But yeah, to sum up the event while we wait to see if anyone wants to join us. A very hectic race, many incidents as we would partly have feared, I'd say, with the closeness of the Armco barriers, and some very good battles along the way, especially that last 40 lap battle between Gabriel and Ray.
That was really the highlight of the race.
Certainly, and it seems like we every race have some kind of battle to have as a highlight. Last 2 events ago, it was the one between Ogonoski and Grant Riddle, which was absolutely bonkers to watch. And last time out at Road Atlanta, I don't think we really had a... Well, we had a 3-way battle for a while between Ogonoski, Placé, and David Saber for the lead, which was quite fun to watch. But yeah, any other ending thoughts you would have for this race, Alberto?
No, I think everybody's pretty much worn out because there's nobody waiting in the green room. It's actually quite a pity that we had that early laps incident. But other than that, I think it's been quite an exciting race for this or the other reason. There's always been a battle here or there in some parts of the track. So in the end, not a bad thing considering that only 13 people finished.
Certainly so, and as you say, it's very unfortunate, but the racing we were treated to was absolutely fantastic, and a lot of fun to watch and talk about.
Yeah, so that's likely everything from us.
Yeah.
And we're going to put an end to it now.
Yep. So thank you very much for everyone who tuned in, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. That was, at least for us in the booth, a lot of fun. And next time out, it'll be, I believe, a F1 series coming to you from Monaco. I'm not sure if we... Yeah, I think which will be broadcast on the around the 10th of April, I believe. Maybe a little bit later, but
yeah, it should be.
Somewhere around there the broadcast will be on, and I hope you tune in for that one if you're not racing yourself. So from me and Alberto, thank you very much for tuning in, and I hope you all have a good night.
Good night, everybody.